I'd like to call this meeting of the Monticello City Council to order. Would you please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? Remain standing as Rodney Burris leads us in prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, Father, thank you so much for bringing us back together again. We ask you to be with us today as we go through stuff and make decisions about the city you put us in. We ask you for your wisdom and kindness and generosity. We love you and praise your name. Amen.
Amen. Roll call, please, Jill.
Oh, here. Ms. Wiley? Mr. Woodham?
Here.
Ms. Reed?
Here.
Mr. Burris?
Here.
Mr. Kuhn?
Here.
Mr. Broderick?
Here.
Mr. Brock?
Here.
Mr. Piercy?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Public participation, in-person participation. This is an opportunity for the public to provide public comment to the presiding officer. Those wishing to speak are required to sign in prior to commencement of the meeting and must address council from the seat and table provided. The public comments must comply with ordinance 2014-02 and be limited to 5 minutes or less. Is there anyone tonight, Rob? Thank you. Remote participation. This is an opportunity to provide public comment to the presiding officer. The public comments must comply with ordinance 2014-02 and be limited to 5 minutes or less. At this time, members of the public are able to attend public meetings by web conference and to submit public comment by email, voicemail, or through web conference. Is there anyone this evening, Maura?
There is none.
Thank you. Consent agenda. Approval of documents and action items is listed. Claims report. Claims dated December 12, 2023 through January 8, 2024. Meeting minutes. City Council meeting minutes, December 11, 2023. Permit report, December 2023. Police report, December 2023. Fire report, December 2023. Budget report, November 2023. Treasurer's report, October 31st, 2023. Treasurer's report, November 30th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions of city staff? Hearing or seeing none, may I have a roll call, please, Jill?
Ms. Vogt?
Yes.
Ms. Lively?
Yes.
Mr. Woodham?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Burris?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn?
Yes.
Mr. Broderick?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. Piercy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to the mayor's report. The final weekend of the Allerton Holiday Glow is this Friday and Saturday. I think it's supposed to be a little brisk this weekend. That might be challenging. The Bement Country Opry has performance lined up for Friday, January 19th at the Monticello Community Building. The Sangamon Valley CEO Class Business Dancing Through the Ages and Adult Prom celebrating the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s will be held Saturday, February 3rd at Monarch Event Center. Dinner will be included. Get your tickets before they are sold out. And don't forget to support your local businesses. Moving on to new business. I have a proclamation to read this evening. Mayoral proclamation, January 27, 2024, as Mud Puppy Day. Whereas the Sangamon River is on the Illinois Natural Areas Inventory, honored for its rich variety of aquatic resources, and whereas the mud puppy, a state-threatened species, is found in the waters of the Sangamon River near Monticello, and whereas the presence of the mud puppy is a sign of a healthy river, and whereas the mud puppy is active in the winter and is unique in its aquatic lifestyle and colorful external gills, and whereas the Land Conservation Foundation and the city of Monticello share an interest in the health of mud puppy and the Sangamon River, and whereas the Land Conservation Foundation's annual Mud Puppy Festival invites the community to celebrate this remarkable creature and the waters where it lives. Now, therefore, I, Larry Stoner, Mayor of the City of Monticello, do proclaim Saturday, January 27th, 2024 of this year as Mud Puppy Day in the City of Monticello, and urge all citizens to understand, enjoy, and protect the unique natural resources in and along the Sangamon River in Piatt County. Moving on to the next part of new business, ordinance 2024-01. An ordinance amending Title 11, Chapter 111 of the Monticello City Code of Ordinances concerning Class B liquor licenses. Hallie Jo?
Thank you, Mayor. Sands Incorporated, which is the Monticello Best Western Gateway Inn, would like to offer a beverage service to their individual guests, similar to what a lot of chains are doing, where it's a number of drinks that they offer during a certain window in the evening for their guests that are staying in the rooms. They had a Class B liquor license until 2013, and they kind of shifted their business model away from offering the bar service themselves for the events. They will still continue to have the individually licensed caterers come in for those events. This is specific as it relates to by the glass for guests. And the city currently has 7 Class B liquor licenses. The council just increased that by 1 last month, all of which are occupied.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 2024-01, an ordinance amending Title 11, Chapter 111 of the Monticello City Code of Ordinances concerning Class B liquor licenses? Is there a second?
Second.
Comments, questions? Comments, questions? Hearing or seeing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Vogt,
Yes.
Ms. Lively,
Yes.
Mr. Woodham,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Burris,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn,
Yes.
Mr. Broderick,
Yes.
Mr. Brock,
Yes.
Mr. Piercy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to Resolution 2024-02, a resolution to accept an agreement to perform the annual City of Monticello audit. Mr. Summers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City of Monticello is required to annually appoint an auditor to conduct a thorough examination of our financial accounts. City has utilized the services of May Cocaine and King from Decatur, Illinois. They have an office out here as well in Wilkin Commercial Park. City administration had recently requested the firm provide an agreement for the audit services for the year ending December 31, 2023. You have a copy of that. I believe it's for $21,000, which is a bit less than what we have budgeted for 2024. So it is recommended the City Council approve Resolution 2024-02, authorizing the mayor to enter into an audit agreement with May Cocaine and King at tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2024-02, a resolution to accept an agreement to perform the annual City of Monticello audit?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? There must be a football one tonight. Hearing or seeing none, can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Vogt,
Yes.
Ms. Lively,
Yes.
Mr. Woodham,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Burris,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn,
Yes.
Mr. Broderick,
Yes.
Mr. Brock,
Yes.
Mr. Piercy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to Resolution 2024-03, a resolution approving the Monticello housing study. Callie?
Thank you, Mayor. As some of you remember, because you were here back in 2022, in early 2022, the city contracted with Northern Illinois University Center for Governmental Studies to complete a 2023 strategic plan, update our comprehensive plan, and then do a housing study for the community, particularly identifying the needs. And my role, and I'm sure various others as well, have heard from every single employer that has employees. Their biggest challenge is employees. And if you reviewed this draft, you probably noticed there's a lot of information as it relates to the labor market. That's because your housing precedes your labor issues. So we've had this housing shortage for a while. Now we have something kind of a little more scientific other than me touting to developers that we need housing, we need housing, we need housing. So now we have some more firmer numbers to back up. So just to kind of go over some of the points, because Larry said there's a football game on, I guess.
I'm not watching.
We can DV up.
So the consensus from this was generated from 6 different methods. The consultants looked at the population growth estimates, current jobs and commuting patterns, labor market for commuters versus residents that live here and work here, vacancy and sales trends for existing units, median household income and household size, That also took into fact the consideration of income and that people had that desire to move, that their income could support it. And then they did a survey for not just survey respondents or residents, but also real estate agents and their desire to move. So I'm going to kind of highlight each method very, very briefly, don't worry. And as I go through these, think of when projects come up, I hope to make a little wrinkle in your brain where you can refer back to this. So as it relates to population growth, we had growth in the sector of under 25 years. So that's good for our schools, that's good for our family-oriented interests, because we want to make sure that these young families have things to do. That also is a population sector that has changing housing needs as families grow, as people move out of, say, their parents' homes, if they're college students or whatever, that's constantly evolving. There's also growth in the elderly or senior population. As people become empty nesters in that demographic, we want to make sure that there's housing available to them. We do a good job of, and I'll get to this later here in a minute, but we do a good job of providing some next steps for that, but it only hits certain sectors and certain population income levels. There we go. Next method considered employment dynamics, basically looking at 2015 to 2023. Greatest growth is in, as you guessed it, healthcare and education sector. Those are our largest employers in the region. And then the greatest loss in the retail, insurance, and finance sectors. 20% of our local jobs are held by Monticello residents. We have about 1,160 commuting in to work, and of our local residents, about 1,600 are commuting out to work outside of Monticello. Moving on to vacancy and sales trends. 21% of our occupied dwellings are renter occupied. That's actually higher than the national standard. 11% of those are multifamily structures, whether they're duplexes, townhomes, or so forth, more than one unit on property. A large percent of our housing stock is older. 30% of it is 60 years or older. That's a good thing. That means we take care of our property. We're not quick to bulldoze and build new where we can maintain it. Our average home value in 2016 was $176,000. As of July of 2023, it's $248,000. So that's a pretty substantial increase. And that's not industry-wide. I mean, we're seeing home values go up anyway, but Monticello, they felt, was a larger increase than in other communities. We averaged 14 active listings over the last 6 months, 14 or so listings on the market that, and if you've paid attention to them, a couple of them are in the $1 million range. That's kind of a niche market there. We used to, say 10 years ago, we would average 50 to 60. So again, our housing is filling up quicker than it's becoming available. We currently have 74 vacant lots. Most of those are slated for the $350,000 or more homes. Good and bad for both of those. Median household income and size, just to touch on that, we do have a relatively high poverty rate. We're at 12.8% as per the 2020 census. Industry standard is 5 to 8% on that one. So that's something we need to think about when people approach us about wanting to target whether low-income senior housing or low-income housing or some type of housing that might fit that market. When we have such a low supply available, everybody's going into that. Everybody's demanding that. Quality of life. I think some of you might remember from our comprehensive plan, the AARP livability index is higher than our big 4 competitors, Forsyth, Mahomet, St. Joe. I'm sorry, big 3 competitors, Forsyth, Mahomet, and St. Joe. So we check all the boxes there. Schools, public safety, property tax, nobody likes paying them, but it gets us a lot for our money. We do have a lot to offer here. And then our national standard park ratio exceeds the average of the nation. So to wrap all that up, what the consultants found was that the greatest demand for housing was in the 350,000 or less single family homes, which we don't have very many of. There is a demand for lower cost housing, particularly for rentals. The senior elderly population is growing. New homes are unaffordable for many in this population. When you think about age in place, a lot of people think that means stay in their home until basically you no longer need a home. But the whole concept is based around aging in your community, not necessarily in that same home. So we need to provide a place for these empty nesters that want to downsize to go to, which also frees up housing for new people to move into. We kind of like, and the consultants touched on this too, but in order to attract new residents, we need to consider 3 goals, which we kind of like to think of as a 3-legged stool. You can't have 2, you can't have 1, you need to have all 3. You need to continue to maintain community services. We want to make this a place for people to live where they want to live because we have all the services and it makes it just an attractive place. We want to continue to retain and attract young working residents. We need people to fill these jobs. And then we want to retain and grow existing employers while attracting new ones. We need places for people to work. So they want to live here. We need to have people to work the jobs, and we need to have jobs for people to work in. All 3 of those are related. So from this information, anytime we get a proposal for any type of housing development or anything like that, we'll be pulling from this study that shows what can be sustained and not, and develop a housing strategy with guidance from the comprehensive plan. But as I said in the memo, and I failed to mention in this review, the main thing that was kind of eye-opening was that based upon this data collected, the study estimates that Monticello's current demand could support 85 to 110 new housing units within the next 3 to 4 years. So that's 3 to 4 years, that's pretty quick, especially when you figure it takes about 12 to 18 months to get a site buildable ready if it's a new development. So I think that there's no question we need housing in this community. So it's up to you as leaders when proposals and projects are coming to your attention to factor or figure and make those decisions on how it best benefits the community. And that's all I have.
Questions?
What can we do for incentive? You know, we have the need to developers. Is there anything the city can do? I mean, districts or, I don't know what the.
Yeah. Sure. So residential TIFs, because it would have to be residential TIF with housing. That's kind of a touchy subject because then you have to work in certain make whole agreements, which actually is between the developer and the school district. That's not something the city is traditionally involved in. That's not something that's too common in downstate, and I don't know it would be too palatable in downstate.
Other things in our toolbox then.
I think our biggest challenge right now is where are we going to put it? Because there's a lot of available land. I mean, everyone says we're landlocked. Yes, there's available land around, but it takes a willing property owner. It's like every project around. You wonder why this lot's been empty forever. It doesn't mean there's lack of interest.
Right.
At the end of the day, the person has to want to sell or do something with it. So I think having those conversations and letting people know that this is a need, this is something the community wants to do. The comprehensive plan showed it, not super growth, but a controlled positive growth. I think that just needs to happen.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask is, like, are there properties that we know that are vacant that are earmarked for such development? I mean, west of downtown, that whole plot we've been talking about for a while. I mean, that would be a good.
Yeah, so we have certain properties and it's like they're identified in the comprehensive plan too as potential for development, whether it's for commercial or residential or whatever. It just, like I said, it comes down to a willing landowner and somebody willing to do it.
What's the progress on Old 47? Is it Dancing Acres?
Dancing Acres, so they are ready. They have the first phase already platted and I believe the roads are in and everything. So now it just comes down to getting willing builders. Excuse me.
So hopefully within the next 12 to 18 months,
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
development out there.
Because that's really all we have left. I mean, there's some smaller lots in town. They have their challenges because they're smaller lots. So you can't build a relatively decent home. And with the cost of building, it doesn't necessarily make feasible sense to build that smaller compact home.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, Kelly Jo. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2024-03, resolution approving the Monticello housing study?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? Hearing or seeing none, may I have a roll call, please, Jill?
Ms. Vogt,
Yes.
Ms. Lively,
Yes.
Mr. Woodham,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Burris,
Yes.
Mr. Coon,
Yes.
Mr. Broderick,
Yes.
Mr. Brock,
Yes.
Mr. Piercy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Alderperson's reports, Mike,
Hi.
Eric,
Here.
Happy New Year.
But besides that, no.
Wendell,
A couple small things. Terry, any idea when Ameren, the IP, whoever, is going to start on putting the lights out by the park? Is that next spring's work, Lodge Park along the road? What happened this winter?
The last conversation Jim Gabarzik had with Ameren, it was supposed to be put into the works in January. So it'll go up the ladder and then they'll get the work orders placed. So hopefully spring.
Spring, maybe. Okay. The other item I would like to put out there for everyone's consideration, nothing to happen soon. We, as aldermen, have not had an increase in our stipend in over 10 years. I believe the time has come to increase that. I would like to have that considered at some time in the future. It will not affect any person in here in your current position. It will not be into effect until you are elected to your next term, okay? So if we approve it, nobody's going to get an increase in their salary for a couple of years. But I think we should look at increasing the stipend for the alderman and the mayor. He gets a little more than everybody else, and he should, because he's required to be a lot of places. But I think we do, although many of our meetings are short, we don't spend a lot of time here, but we do have a lot of time committed at budget times and at other things throughout the year when we're not on the clock, so to speak. And like I say, it's been over 10 years. I think it's just time to step it up a little bit. And if we can consider that sometime and approve it, the money would be put into next year's budget. Wouldn't affect anything going on now, but then after election, we would put that into effect, and whoever got elected would have a little better setup than they got now. So I would like to see us talk about that sometime in the future. Okay? That's all I have.
good. Tom?
Good. The water tower looks awesome. It's quite beautiful. Great job. Minor problem.
Oh.
There was an antenna on that the school buses and probably the school uses to talk to everybody. It's not working. Are you aware of this?
We have been in contact with the school district,
Okay,
and the water plant operator is speaking directly to the individual at the school district. The school district's responsible for putting the tower on, or the antenna on.
okay.
Oh.
That's not ours.
Okay.
That's the school district.
I'll pass that
So
on.
it's been in the works for weeks.
Believe me, I know.
I think it's an individual, the school can,
Okay, I'll pass that back.
whoever they hired to put it up and take it down, it's theirs.
Everybody assumes it was the company that did it, and that's the city, so that's the assume. I'll pass that on.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mary?
Want to recognize Callie and Shelley Stock, just all of the events leading up to the holidays. We just have a lot to be proud of in Monticello for everything that's available. Personally, being able to stop in any number of shops for last minute Christmas gifts, it's wonderful to have at our fingertips. Thank you, and please pass that along.
Will do, thank you.
John?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Nothing tonight?
Okay, nothing. Move on to Chief Ross's report.
Officer Hart graduated the academy on the 22nd. He's finishing up his first field training. Right now, I'm conducting another background check for another applicant. Everything looks good. I'm just waiting on a test date from the police commission to set that up. Had a really good, Ms. Vogt ran a really good reunification meeting on the 3rd. We all participated, did another walkthrough of Monticello Christian. Got everyone we have the packets ready, the binders ready, so God forbid we have to kick that in. I think we're going to be miles ahead of other districts and other counties that are trying to kind of still piecemeal some sort of reunification plan. So beyond that, special kudos to Monticello Fire, BMET, Mid-Piatt, Cisco Fire, along with the Sheriff's Office. We had a woman suffering from dementia walk away from her home 2 days after Christmas on the 27th. That's right?
What was the next?
For the 26th. So then we were able to track her down less than 2 hours. So she made about a mile and a quarter to the southwest of her home, but good and bad. Bad that we have to put plans like this into effect, but good that we actually know what we're doing. The few times that we have had it is pretty good real life practice. So everything went pretty well. A few hiccups, but really it just came down to maps. So
We always learn something each time we do.
Is that it, Rob?
that's it.
Chief Rupke, John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last month, we ran 48 calls, put us at 499 for the year. Just hope to put that one on New Year's Eve to get us over 500. One of the guys wanted to call on a smoke detector or something, but we can't do that. So, but 499. That beats our previous high, which was 481 in 2017. Last year, we only ran 387, so it was a pretty busy year. I can attest to Kelly of our growth because it's the 8th of January and we've already run 30 calls. So I don't know what's happened in the last 8 days, but we can't be growing that fast. So.
Good for grants.
That's
We
true.
did some good training this year. This past month, we did a debriefing of the fire that we had in Lambert, at Lambert. It's always good to go over that type of thing because especially when they're that big and see what we did right, see what we did wrong. It wasn't our fire scene, it was Mid-Piatt's, but we all were involved in that. So we talked about all the different things and our role in that fire and what Monticello Fire did for that incident. We also did fire communications and scene size up, which is important. We have a fire ground, communications between the different companies and what we're doing, and scene size up when you are rolling up on a fire. The most important thing is to kind of get a game plan of what's going on once you're rolling up to that scene, and then you do a 360 and then report back so that we can start out with a good plan. And then we did our vehicle maintenance and so forth on the third week. We participated in the Monticello Parade, the Cisco Parade. Get some volunteers, volunteer for Polar Express and help them with the parking duty. All the different departments in Piatt County volunteer for different nights. And the Polar Express is going to donate some money back to the Piatt County Firefighters Association. We're trying to buy a mask fit test, a machine, which costs about $10,000 that we would all share amongst the different departments. So we're going to get a donation from that. This year we did 1,797 hours of training, which comes out to about 95 and a half per person, per firefighter. Last year we did about 1,400. So we were about over 300 hours worth of training this year, and I anticipate more again this year. So, and again, thank you to Rob and his team and all for that search and rescue. I think it was an hour and 7 minutes we found her. So, and she was from out of town, so she really didn't know the town. She just took off and started going down County Farm Road. And fortunately, we found her and it worked out real well. So very good. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Mr. Summers, City Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll echo Eric's Happy New Year to everybody. I have a bit of good news. When we go through the bond and debt certificates, we are asked, I don't know, a couple of 3 dozen questions that give us a rating. And Maura and Callie, thank you for all of your efforts. You have to pull together, again, a few dozen questions and supporting documents for this rating that S&P Global does. And it appears in their preliminary report, we've been AA-, which in a downstate community, you can, with a AA-, you can count on probably one hand. It appears that we will increase from AA- to AA. That is a huge accomplishment. And I think a few of the things that bode well for us is our conservative budget estimates for several years now. Obviously, the increased state shared revenues, goals to maintain operational expenditures in the reserves due to those state shared revenues. Our long-term financial planning, a lot of this can be attributed to Mayor Stoner and the council for your efforts as well. One of the things Mayor Stoner is very adamant about for 3 or 4 years now is putting more money towards the police pension, and they noted that. So that's a pretty huge accomplishment. Again, Maura and Callie were pulled in to, I don't know, they gave us a few hours, it seemed like, to put all that information together. So thank you again, greatly appreciated. So thank you, Council, Mayor Stoner, for all your efforts as well. Job well done.
Thank you, Terry. Any questions, comments? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor, aye. Any opposed? See you 2 weeks.